to give the opening keynote at our orientation this year, and we've been following AA's work for a few years now, and we really wanted him to speak at Net Impact, and finally the day has come. So I'd like to give a little background on Khun Thirawit. He is the AA's Senior Executive Vice President, and he was the sustainability leader who did the life cycle assessment for AA's paper in terms of the environmental and social impact of the paper-making company. And AA sells paper all over the world. This I did not know until I got to know AA. I thought it was just in Thailand, and the commercial with the the super white paper has become so common in the Thai conversation daily that oh, your skin is so fair like AA paper. So AA is definitely in the Thai culture, and we're very intrigued by AA's initiative of growing the Kanna paper along the Thai rice paddies, and that also is trying to tackle the problem of farmers' debt in Thailand. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Khun Thirawit Leetavorn.
Okay, should be working. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. What you're going to see here is a freshly minted document. It was minted last night about midnight. The reason why I decided to freshly mint it is because one, to obviously update it, but also try to make it relevant for the audience that is here. I saw a list of people who would attend and various backgrounds. Several times, well, most of the time when I go and make these presentations on AA's sustainability, I always get asked the question, well, you guys are really good at this, and what made you do this? What was the driving force? What was the motivation to build a paper mill and make it sustainable in the way that you have? It comes back to the roots of the founders of the company. We're all founders of the company. We're working in the agricultural sector, and they all believe that for business in Thailand, or a modern business to be created in Thailand, it had to have agricultural roots. So whatever we did, it had to be grown by farmers in Thailand. And from there, we will always be able to prosper. As you probably know, we have over 17 million farmers in Thailand who are still very actively engaged in the agriculture sector. We are known as the food bowl of the world. We're also getting to be known better as the kitchen to the world these days. But we'll start with rice. The picture you see there is a picture of a rice paddy and the trees, paper trees that we grow along these rice paddies. Those trees that you see there are pretty close to being ready for harvest. So we're an agricultural-based company. Our motivation, again, for going into this business was to create value added for the company itself. It was profit-making motivation. With any company, you obviously want to make the process as efficient as possible. So through this efficiency, we work to a philosophy which is called, we don't waste anything. We reuse everything that is put into our production process. I also jazzed this thing up because getting a little bit, as I move along and make presentations on sustainability, I've tried to sort of cover the main areas where we have a positive impact. And to make it a little bit catchier, I've just coined these terms. One is the environmental wellness, human wisdom, and social well-being. We'll come and look at each one of these in the following pages. In terms of the environmental wellness, we are self-sufficient in terms of the short fiber, which is the fiber you get from the trees. We use renewable biomass power, again, which comes from the trees themselves. And we have our own water supply, so we don't draw on any of the natural water resources. We don't have artesian well water. We have rain water, lots of it. This is the canal before you grow the trees. One interesting fact about the land in Thailand is farmers, on average, own only about 4 acres of land. So, if you are in a paper making, we are in the paper business, you want to grow a lot of trees, one way to do it is go make plantations. Lots of trees, lots of plantations, lots of land. Each farmer who owns only 4 acres, to get them all to agree, you need something like 100,000 of them to agree to sell the land to us. But one, it's time consuming, capital intensive, and you probably won't get that amount of land in one particular area. So what we decided to do was ask farmers to plant the trees along the canal. And from our experience, we found that one canal, which is a very small plot of land, you can plant about 100 trees there. It takes 4 years to mature, which is a very fast cycle, which allows the farmer to realize an income before it's too late. If you've got a 10-year cycle, then basically he forgets about it. But within 4 years, he'll be able to get some money out of it. Each one of these trees that is planted, once it's been cut down, you have 3 cycles. You don't need any fertilizer, and there's no impact on the rice that's been growing around that particular area. So he still maintains his main income, which is from rice. So this is what happens. We transform that empty piece of land into a productive resource, and it gives us our sustainable fiber source. We currently have close to about 200 million trees that have been planted. We use about 20% of those trees in our production cycle. So that's enough for us to continue to maintain our sustainable fiber sourcing. And of course, by growing these trees, we all know, it absorbs carbon dioxide. And the interesting fact is, the fiber that's actually used to make the paper comes about because of the absorption of carbon dioxide in the photosynthesis process. And that's what makes a tree grow, and that is the fiber content that we use to make paper. We strip the rest of the tree out. And a few more facts about why we're good in terms of the environment. This is a quick snapshot of the entire process. We start off with our nursery. And we move the saplings distributed to with over 60 provinces. 1.5 million farmers grow the trees. We estimate their income from the trees to be about 8% on top of their rice income. And afterwards we harvest it and we bring back the trees which are wood chipped, and they are taken into our mill. I mentioned earlier that the wood, we actually strip the wood off, but we only use the fiber to make the tree. By stripping the wood, we are left with the bark of the tree. We're left with some tree knots. But we're also left with a very interesting substance which is called black liquor. And that is as good as oil. We use all that to run the electricity facilities and the steam in the mill. We have enough steam and electricity obviously to run the mill, but we have about 70 megawatts left over which goes back onto the grid. And because of that, we've just decided, well, we haven't decided, we've got a concession to put up another 400 megawatts of biomass power plant. And they'll be coming from these trees. So that just gives you a taste of wasting nothing. You know, one tree that grows there, the fiber is used to make paper, a tree is stripped down and it's used to make power. fantastic system. It's totally enclosed. And this is our lake. Brigitte Marie was in the news quite recently. You would have seen it. It was on a lot of water. Well, that's where we get our water. It's from all the rain that comes down to Brigitte Marie. We built a 36 million cubic meter reservoir there. And, well, that's enough for us to use and enough for the area and the industrial parks around the area to use quite comfortably throughout the year. Well, in terms of social well-being, one of the things that we found out quite interestingly is that when you give farmers a bit more money, we're also concerned that, well, we hope they don't go and drink it away or gamble it away. We hope they do something good, because otherwise it could reflect badly on us for promoting these sort of things. But what we found is that they actually, it's actually strengthened the family itself. Previously, children had to leave schools to come help farmers work. Now, farmers actually have enough money to say, hey, go ahead, stay in school. And we know that because we do surveys. We go and check these guys. Well, this is the benefit. They all recognize that it gives them extra income. They're quite happy with the extra income coming over. But this is where they spend their money. 51% of them spend their money on their children. They buy more land. They help with the family expenses. So it puts them, it improves their life, their quality of life. At the same time, we're obviously involved in other community programs such as the blood donation around the area and mobile medical units to the Chinguri and nearby areas where we have our farmers. But we haven't stopped there. AA has been expanding. We acquired a mill in France. It's another 300,000 ton mill. We're looking at mills elsewhere in the world, and we hope to supply all these mills with our trees, the paper from Canada, which has meant that we've expanded our program. Now it covers Cambodia, Laos, and Bangladesh. Same concept. They grow rice, they got farmers, we can take our trees, grow the trees for us, and we'll manage the rest for you. And this is quite neat, actually. When you become a big company in the province, a lot of schools come to you and ask you, can you give us some money to buy school equipment, lunch for children? We decided that instead of giving them money, we'd ask them to grow the trees for us. So the schools grow the trees around, if you see schools in rural, they're quite large spaces. So they grow the trees around the borders of the school itself. We give them the trees. 3 years later, we come back. 4 years later, we come back, cut the trees, give them money for the trees, and they go and buy their school equipment. And it goes through all these fantastic uses: computers, feeding programs, improving the school surroundings. And this is where we are. We have quite a few provinces that have asked us to contribute. Most of those are actually where our farmers are quite active. So that's why we're able to extend this program to cover all these schools. And of course, you know, this is a paid-for announcement. I've got to sell AA paper. There's no such thing as a free lunch. When you get into, when you got into paper, and I was asked, how can we move paper out of just being a pure commodity? Well, first of all, you have to have a unique selling proposition. You need to have something that could differentiate your paper as opposed to other papers. So, you know, how are people buying paper today? Well, I'll buy it on price. You know, just give me a ream of paper, whatever it is, it's okay. Let me use it. So we did quite a bit of research onto obviously consumer buying habits, and different types of paper that were available on the market. We ended up with, through our product research, and we ended up finding out that the paper should be fairly dense, in other words, have a bit of weight to it. And it should have a certain smoothness to it. The density and the smoothness is important because of the contact points in your copy machine. If your paper is very light, it doesn't have flat contact points. So what happens is you actually get a pretty lousy reproduction. That's for one. And the other thing is the rolls don't pick up the paper. And when that happens, then you've got paper jam. So we developed these trees with a very high fiber content. And that fiber content will give us the properties that I just mentioned. This one is comparing the fiber content between all the species of trees that are available to make paper. We have 30 million fibers per gram. Our fiber length is about the shortest. Our fiber width is about the same, and the coarseness is very low. What that means, very simply, is if you compare to wearing a very nice shirt, high thread bedding, it's comfortable, it's very tight, it's very knit, you feel very nice in it. It's the same thing with paper. The tighter it is, because of all the fibers that goes into per gram, the tighter the sheet is. So the thicker the sheet is, even for the same weight, you get a thicker sheet. Amazing. And this is proven. We tested against, okay, yeah, we didn't put competitor names in, that's very good. We tested it against competitors from around the world. Ours is the first one. On the formation, the score there, actually the lower the score is a better score, it's better formation, even distribution along the sheet of paper itself. The opacity is seeing through the sheet, which again reflects in terms of thickness of the paper. So our score is the highest. Formation is very good. And in terms of smoothness, there are two sides to smoothness. If you see a paper machine, it's a very long roll, and the pulp gets squeezed out on top. And it gets squeezed onto a webbing. And the webbing on the top, we have gravity. And gravity will make the bottom side rougher than the top side. It's just natural. So that's why you have the red, which is the bottom side measure, and the blue, which is the top side measure. But the point is, we're smoother on both sides. And it's actually because of this. Sometimes when you buy a ream of paper, they have this side up, which says, use this first, because they want you to use the smoother side on the top. But with AA sheet, don't worry about it. Just break open the pack, use it. It's good both sides. And yes, we are available in 120 countries all over the world. I was not responsible for all those countries. Otherwise, I'd probably be bald by now. But yeah, we're doing well. Recently, we just opened up the market in the United States. We have 3 big distributors there. One of them is Office Depot. So if you go back to the States, go to Office Depot stores, buy AA paper. 1,300 stores. Some of the marketing programs that we use to promote the brand awareness. We use these campaigns basically to promote the awareness itself, and then we use events to drive people, educate people at the events themselves. I think you all know this famous gentleman, Psy, of Gangnam Style. He very nicely promoted us for about a year. And of course we attend paper world functions and fairs, educate the public and also the trade. And we're a bit like Coke. We've taken a leaf from them and said, well, Coke, all the displays are great, let's do the same. So a lot of modern retailers around the world will have displays like this going through from time to time. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take. Thank you.
Microphone.
microphone is yours now, but before I hand it to the first person to ask the question, I must apologize and leave for a client meeting with two gentlemen. But just as a reminder, we have a trip to the Mishai Patana School or the Bamboo School in Pattaya next Friday, and you can either take a day trip or you can sleep overnight at a heavily discounted rate at the Birds and Bees Resort, cabbages and condoms, all of that. So I invite you to join us next week. And would anyone like to start the first question?
My name is Pradeep, and I'm a Sasinath. And I have a bunch of questions, not just one. So the first one is whether this model is extensible. I think it's very fascinating and innovative use of innovation in the way you're doing things. So is it extensible to other crops as well? For example, palm tree comes to my mind that palm is one which is a monoculture and not grown sustainably. Is it possible to replace or use the same model of canal for growing palm trees? That's the first question. And the second question would be on the economics, in the sense, I can imagine that the logistics cost of doing this would be quite a lot, because you are basically using only the borders of a certain area. So how do you manage that from a business perspective?
First on the other crops, I don't have an answer for that because we haven't looked at that. So I wouldn't even try to give you an answer for that. We do have a research, agricultural research unit within the company itself. If you give one of my assistants your email, I'll give him your answer. He'd give you a much better answer than what I would be able to give you. So sorry about that, but we'll get back to you on that one. In terms of the logistics, yeah, it's quite massive actually. You're right. We do have, but to mitigate that, what we have is we have about 20. We have 20 centers located all around Thailand. Each one of these areas, their job is to bring the wood in and leave them in the center. And what they do there is to allow the wood to dry out. Because the weather here is such that sometimes during the rainy season, there's a lot of water content in the wood. So we allow the wood to dry out, and then we bring the dried out wood, which would then have a lower weight to it, bring it into our mill to actually process themselves. It doesn't reduce a lot of the cost, but what it does, it makes the wood ready for use. And the centers also test the quality of the wood that comes in. So that maintains, so each lot of wood that comes into us, we know fairly precisely what the moisture content is, what the quality of the pulp we can expect to get in from that particular lot of wood. So we are able to match the same quality of wood together at the same batch, that same time at the mill itself. So it is costly, but on that side, we are looking at ways that we have done what we believe is the most efficient way of making it.
Thank you. Very interesting and impressive presentation. What is all the paper coming from that canal
Yes.
growing? And all your production plants are in Thailand and neighboring countries that you mentioned, or you do have other areas?
Yes, we have we acquired a mill, a paper mill in France. So that is the second biggest production site. We have other smaller areas, but those are purely converting, where converting is where we just take a roll of sheet and they cut it. The mill in France produces paper in France, but it takes the trees, the wood from Canada.
So you ship all the wood?
Yeah, it's actually a lot cheaper to ship wood than it is to paper. Paper's got to go in a container. Wood goes into just a barge. You can ship hundreds of tons of it without actually very minimal cost.
What's the capacity? I mean, the rice growing regions, the various rice growing regions are required so that you can grow along the canal, right? Are you near that capacity yet?
No, we're nowhere near that capacity.
So that actually leaves room for other paper manufacturers to actually.
It does.
Anyone else doing this?
Yes, SCG. They're doing it. The big problem we have here, the major problem we have here in Thailand is not so much other people growing the paper trees around the canal. The big problem we have here is, thanks to our government, they subsidize all other forms of crops, rubber and sugar. So we get a lot of farmers who are actually changing over to take advantage of those new subsidies that are coming from that. So all those crops are competing with us. That's why we've expanded to Laos, Cambodia, Bangladesh.
More question?
There are no more questions. Actually, I was asked to give a quick prompt to the staff here. Khun Thirawit very kindly brought along some gifts. So not only is he giving us a wonderful talk, he's also bearing gifts. So I think there's a little bag for all of you to take home when you go. But as I said, I'm just a quick stand-in for Prayer, who had to leave on business. I just want to say, a big thank you, Khun Thirawit. We have been pursuing Khun Thirawit for a little while to come and speak to us. We've already spoken to our students, and they're highly impressed. And we have a little token of our appreciation here. And as Prayer mentioned earlier, we have, in addition to the monthly talks every third Thursday here at